Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Greetings to everyone who has tuned in from different parts of the world to join us today. I am really looking forward to our next hour together, meeting and speaking with five educators from a non-profit run school in India called I Teach RSM, part of a network of schools called I Teach Schools. I Teach Schools runs nine free secondary schools in two cities in India, Pune and Delhi, in a public private partnership model, much like the charter schools in other parts of the world. These schools cater to the poorest students of the city with a mission to give them an equal opportunity to attend college and build their career. I got some messages saying I'm on mute. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I'll take that once again. I think people were not able to hear me. Okay, once again, greetings to everyone who has tuned in from different parts of the world to join us today. Really looking forward to our next hour together. We're going to be meeting with five educators from a non-profit run school in India called I Teach RSM, part of a network of schools called I Teach Schools. I Teach runs nine free secondary schools in two cities in India, Pune and Delhi, in a public private partnership model, much like the charter schools we have in other parts of the world. These schools cater to the poorest students of the city with a mission to give them an equal opportunity to attend college and build their careers. I myself am a founding team member of iTeach and have been with iTeach since we started back in 2015. Joining us in the panel today, we have Sucheta, also a founding team member of iTeach RSM. She is the school counselor. Two teachers from the school, Rui and Priyanka, who teach secondary math and SST respectively, and Suchita and Pooja, who together lead the school in their roles as principal and vice principal. Today's discussion is aligned with World Education Week's theme of focusing on well-being. This team of educators is going to share with us a unique initiative that they recently started for all the staff in their school with exactly that spirit. It is called Fearless Voices. Before we jump into what Fearless Voices is and how it has really helped the staff that I teach, Suchita, as a leader of the school, I'm curious to know how did staff well-being even become a priority in your school? Given that, at least for schools in India, especially public schools, we have read a lot, we have observed, all evidence points to the fact that teacher well-being is unfortunately not on anyone's radar. It is often not even in the top 10 things that a school would typically focus on. So, how did this become a priority for your school?
Yes, thank you, Tanvi, for that prompt. I think, like you rightly said, staff well-being or even care shown towards a staff member is not a priority in most public schools, I would say, in India. And that's why when I came into education about 10 years ago, I felt that this is a priority and this has to be the center of everything. At IT schools, we've always believed that staff well-being, staff growth, staff development is very, very crucial for student growth. We always think about students need a better choice, students need to make better decisions. But how are they going to be able to do that if my teachers do not have a strong enough voice? And since my days of teaching, I always knew that the days I was the most happiest were the days that I was able to be the most productive in my classes. And that's why I think it's always been a priority for me and for IT schools. There's this beautiful line that goes that empower teachers create empowered students, and that's basically the mantra that we have always believed in, that we follow. Our staff members are the center of everything that we want to achieve.
That's a line that will definitely stick with many of us here. You mentioned empowered teachers, Suchita. Empowerment is a word we often use. It's a big word. What do you mean by empowered teachers? Can you break that down for us? What does it look like?
I think empowered teachers, in my opinion, would be a teacher who has her game in control, who has her head, heart, and soul completely aligned, who knows that to change the destinies of students, I need to take control of my life. I need to take control of my emotions. I need to be emotionally and mentally absolutely strong to make those choices for myself and for then my students. I think for me, an empowered teacher is exactly that, where everything is aligned and focused.
Okay, when you say head, heart, and soul being aligned, can you give us like an example of what would that look like in action?
I think as teachers or even as human beings for that, especially in COVID-19, there are enough moments where we would struggle, where we're not able to make that right choice, where we might not have the support structure around us. The point to build that alignment, and it takes time, it takes work, it takes effort on your part, and that's why I have my counselor on the panel as well, who's helped us through this process, who's helped us understand this a lot more. I think it takes effort to work on yourself, but given the opportunity, given a team that you can trust, given a space that you can come thoughts, voice your emotions, leads to a teacher to become a little more healthier emotionally and mentally, because it's not like it's a taboo to even talk about mental well-being or emotional well-being, but that is a priority for us, where we can come in and speak absolutely fearlessly about what we think and what we want and what we feel.
Awesome, awesome. I was just wondering while you were speaking, Suchita, that it's not even been 5 years since your school was founded. It's been less than 5 years, and you're here on a global platform, chosen amongst 100 schools to share some topic that is honestly, like you said, very much still, unfortunately, a taboo in India. So thank you for that. And really, really happy to see at least one school prioritizing it right up there in their priorities. Just coming back and focusing a little bit on the initiative Fearless Voices that we're mainly here to discuss today. Sucheta, as a school counselor, you are the one who started this initiative. Can you tell us what is Fearless Voices? How does it work?
Sure. So Tanvi, just like Suchita and you were talking about, in most of the schools, when teacher well-being is being considered, it's sadly just viewed as something that teachers are just expected to fix on their own. Um, Especially in the kind of schools that we are working with, we work with the public sector. I personally witness teachers struggling daily with long hours, with anxiety, with pressure of taking care of their homes, and also most importantly, the absence of any sort of resources to deal with stress. And add all of this together with a pandemic, and we just knew we had to create a space where our teachers could be just a part of it and just let it all out. And if I can say so, I'll say that Fearless Voices was actually a project that was inspired by our own team of fearless teachers who face challenges every single day in the virtual world and in their personal lives while trying to provide the best kind of education that we can to our students.
Okay, so can you tell me a little bit more of what the space looks like?
Sure. So Tanvi, it's basically it's a space that happens fortnightly, and of course we've tried to create a space online that is
Okay, Tanvi, I think I'll jump in for that question.
Sorry, I lost network there. Sucheta, can you just repeat your last line, please?
No, Tanvi, I think we've lost Sucheta. She's having, I think, some network issues. So can I jump in and answer that question?
Yes, please do.
Fearless Voice is the simple how of it is that we run it once in 2 weeks, where we have a simple sign up sheet for all our staff members. The purpose of a sign up sheet, because when we have such voices in teams, it's very organic that here's the date and here's the agenda and here's the meeting and everybody needs to come in. But that's not what we wanted from the space. We wanted a sign up sheet. So every staff member consciously signs that sheet up and makes a very conscious decision, makes a very conscious choice to come in to the space. They sign up to be a speaker or a listener. So if they come in as a speaker, then they're sharing their emotions, they're there to contribute. And if you're a listener, you basically just listen very, very empathetically, you're listening. One of the clear norms is that we're only listening, we're only speaking, we're only encouraging through words, but we're not offering any solutions, because The purpose of Fearless Voices, especially in COVID-19 times, is an outlet for not venting out, but it's an outlet for your emotions. And sometimes you just want to be heard. You don't want to be given advice. You don't want to be given the solutions. You just want to be heard. And that's essentially the purpose of our Fearless Voices.
Beautiful. Yeah, I would think that uh, collective problem solving would be a part of it, but really interesting to hear that it stops at just acceptance and listening, and it's a sharing space. And from what I heard you share, Suchita, it has some norms. There are some norms to, uh, bring the space and bring out safety in the space, but overall, it's a sharing and listening space and nothing more than that. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I think Sucheta is back. She can just add a little bit about the norms as well, because even that is very, we've thought about this very, very intentionally about creating this space for all our staff members. SK, why don't you take that?
Sure. Sorry, there was a network issue. So yeah, one thing that we concentrated on the most was Tanvi was that as Suchita explained, we would be very, very high on acceptance. And no matter what anybody we would share in that space, that would be completely accepted. That would be completely okay. Those are things that we concentrated on. Another thing that we concentrated on was that it's a space where you can sign up to be in. Okay, you can sign up to be a listener. You can sign up to be a speaker, and at any point during the session, you can switch to the other. So we were very conscious about the way we went about in creating this online space because we wanted to make sure that the staff was okay with being vulnerable, okay with letting out their emotions, okay with just sharing the areas they've shown growth in. So yeah, it's a completely voluntary space again. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I was just wondering if, like Suchita mentioned, that there are some principles that you align on just to make the space safer. What are those principles?
Yeah, so one main thing that we aligned was that the space would be completely like you could share anything that you wanted to share. There would be no holding back. There would be unconditional positive regard no matter what anybody shared. And yeah, of course, completely free of judgment. Whatever anybody said, it would be completely okay. So those are things that we aligned with.
Awesome, awesome. At this point, I'd actually like to bring in one of our teachers here, who this initiative was started for. Priyanka, when Suchita says that it was a space of no judgment, and people can openly share and listen, it may sound easy, but it's actually not. I'm assuming it wouldn't be easy to go out there and put yourself out there with so much vulnerability. So why did you choose to be a part of the space, Priyanka, and how was the experience for you?
Okay, so Tanvi, basically I'm a very emotional person. So I have always felt that people would judge me if I cry in front of them. During my team meetings, I would think 10 times before asking any question, before putting any idea, and I always keep my questions to myself. But during these fearless voices, when I saw my own school principal, who is a very strong lady for me, so she cried in front of us. And this showed me her other side, that she could be as vulnerable as me. And not even that, but during fearless voices, I have seen other people spoke openly about having suicidal thoughts without any reason. And I realized that this is not only me. Like me, there are other people who are suffering, who are struggling, and they are feeling alone. And there I choose to speak. Initially, I was not signed up as a speaker. I was signed up as a listener. But when I share that space, it gives me the confidence, and I decided to speak. So first time when I share my experience, when I share my emotions, I cried a lot, and I realized that no one judged me. So I realized there that my emotions matter here. This is the space where my emotion matters, and the whole team is for me. And it gives me the confidence, and the impact of this on me has been that now I have raised my opinions. I am putting more ideas to my team, and like I'm feeling more confident. I'm feeling much more confident in being vulnerable in front of others. So for me, this was a very good experience. Rather, I would say this is an empowering experience for me.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. Thank you so much for sharing with so much courage your journey from simply being a listener in the space to being a speaker, whatever was comfortable for you. One line which you said really stuck with me, that, my emotions matter. And you said that a couple of times, that it was really important for you to be heard and your emotions to be out there. And I think that takes a lot of courage to even share here. Some of the examples you mentioned are quite disturbing, but thank you for sharing that. Rui, you have also been a part of the space since the beginning as a staff member who experienced it firsthand. So what has your experience been like?
Yeah, so Tanvi, I think I completely resonate with Priyanka. For me, also personally and professionally, Fearless Voices has created a very positive and strong impact. I think I can give a lot of credit to Fearless Voices. Due to Fearless Voices, now I'm actually able to give a structure to my thoughts and actually channelize my emotions, giving it a much better and positive direction. Initially, during my check ins with Pooja or while talking to my team, also, I used to hesitate a lot to share my confusions, stresses, or even give a feedback to anybody. And I used to experience this because I think I had the fear of not being listened to or not being accepted. I think at that time, Fearless Voices gave me a platform to actually speak openly, um, with my team being there listening to me. And I think that was a space where I was actually heard. As a person, I think I'm somebody who always overthinks. And because of that, I have been experiencing a lot of anxiety in the pandemic. I have been questioning myself constantly that are people around me, taking precautions? Am I going to be affected? Or people around me, are they actually understanding what my concerns are about? Unfortunately, Tanvi, when I used to talk to people, um, I actually realized that people feel that my overthinking, concerns, anxiety is something that I can switch on and switch off at will. And that time, I honestly felt that, you know, I couldn't share openly or talk about my demons. Um, However, Fearless Voices came through, and it gave me a perspective to look at myself from a different light. And I think being a listener, being a speaker, I was able to actually accept a part of me that overthinks or get anxious. Fearless Voices actually plays a huge role in me now accepting myself as a whole.
Yeah, I think that the part you shared around people expecting you to switch on and switch off your emotions or triggers at will really, really stuck with me. I think I may have fallen prey to that expectation as well. And it's really got me, yeah, thinking about being more cognizant about when we do that. I think it happens a lot of us are at the receiving end or at the end of doing it to someone else. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely thinking about that particular line the most, Rui. But thank you so much for sharing. Clearly, from what Priyanka shared, from what you're now sharing, Rui, I can see that you're sharing very authentically. It's something that has definitely impacted you, and you can see that in the way that you're sharing. What I'm wondering, as a leader of a team and in general as an educator also, is that at an individual level, I can clearly see that each one of you have been impacted. Uh, Maybe Pooja, you could take this one as vice principal of the school. Have you observed any shifts in the overall team dynamics or team culture in general after this initiative?
Definitely. I think just off the top of my head, I can think of two things right now. One is an impact on like Suchita and me directly, and the other one on the team. I think the very first one is that as leaders, I think both Suchita and I um, feel far more confident now to let go of control of a lot of school-led spaces and decisions that we have to make on a daily basis. Just as an example, we have these school team meetings pretty consistently all throughout the year. And before this space, I think in these school team meetings, Suchita and I used to speak for about 70% of the time. Now that has completely flipped to our staff speaking for 70% of the time. And our role during that time is just to listen um, and let them speak as much as possible. And I think the second biggest impact has been on the staff, right? Exactly what Rui shared about her being more confident. Sorry, not confident. I think Priyanka shared about being more confident. Rui shared about the fact that she feels more accepted now. I think these are just examples of what I'm going to say next is we've had a massive increase in staff ownership throughout everything from school-led spaces to grade-led spaces to projects that we have in the school, outside the school. All of these are now, most of these, I would say, actually all of these are led by our staff members. And our staff members basically raise their hand for every single opportunity that comes our way. Yeah, I think overall, I think if you look at us giving away control and our staff raising their hand for more opportunities, I think together this has led to like a participative style leadership within our school where every single staff member is involved at every single level of decision making. So I think, yeah, that's been the overall impact on the school.
Thanks, Pooja. I think this is a good time to ask the staff if they have also felt that. I'm sure they have, but would love to hear from them. How has this participative style of leadership played out for you? Because you're the one experiencing it, right? Maybe you could give us a couple of examples of how you've seen this play out.
I think I can definitely give an example. We in IT schools we already have this system called we have check-ins every once or twice a week with our managers. So our managers ask us about our well-being, about our personal lives, how's everything going, and they help us with things like anything that they can help us with. Usually what would happen was, so Suchita is my manager. Suchita would ask me about how everything is going and everything is okay. So after this, I felt like she would tell me more about herself. I would get a deeper dive into how she's dealing with her personal life. Is there something I can help her with? Is there anything anybody else can help her with? So I can say that there's much more understanding. There's so much more empathetic listening. And when you combine factors like this together, I think we just make an amazing team together because we're able to understand, we're able to respond, we're able to kind of figure out what each member needs and take decisions as a whole team. So yeah, there's been a huge difference and we're making the most of it.
Lovely. Thank you for the check-in example, Suchita. Really good to hear that in your one-on-ones with your manager, it is not only about your professional goals and progress to those, but also about how you're doing overall in your well-being and personal life. So that was really something that definitely will stay with me as well. Does anyone want to add to that? How have you seen examples of the shift that Pooja mentioned, from 70% of the time the leaders taking initiative and the leaders speaking to that flipping around to at least that being 30% of the time. So that's actually a huge shift. Anyone wants to add, maybe Rui, Priyanka?
Yes, Tanvi, I want to share one example. So I just remembered the example of Sangeeta Didi. Sangeeta is our one of the parent and our school social worker. So initially when she joined, she used to keep quiet in the meetings. But after this fearless voices, she got the confidence just like me. And a few days before, she led one beautiful session in our school team meeting. So definitely this is one of the example where people are leading the meetings and all.
That's awesome. From not being able to share in a team meeting space to leading a team meeting space is definitely a beautiful journey. And she's a parent, I believe you shared, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Really, really good to hear. I can see all the examples pointing to what Pooja just shared about the shift, of the staff raising their hands, like you said, Pooja. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing that. I think at this point, a lot of the people in the audience right now are definitely probably thinking, how do I replicate this initiative in my school, right? So Suchita, if you had to suggest few key steps for someone who wants to replicate this maybe in their school, what would those be?
Yes, I think Just waiting for the yes. So if the screen is visible to everyone in the audience, these are 5 quick steps. I'm just going to wait for a quick second.
While Suchita waits, I would love for the audience to think of at least 4 or 5 questions that you have in mind, because right after this is our question and answer segment, and we'd love to hear a flood of questions from all of you. Suchita, the slide is up. Go for it.
Yes, so I think for all educators who are in the audience, if you're a school leader, if you're a teacher, if you're anyone who can make a change in your schools, I think for me and for my team and for my school, these 5 steps have worked tremendously successfully to create fearless voices, and evidences are right in front of you on this panel. I think the first one is that this is not a priority. I saw a chat somewhere, a message on the chat box that this is not well-being is not thought about very very intentionally, but my request, and it needs to be a priority around your schools, and you have to be intentional about it. Like, we make time for fearless voices once in 2 weeks. I think intentionality towards it is equally important, just like any other space that you would have, like a student assembly. You would have a fearless voices, you would have the space where teachers come in and share. I think the second key step for us that worked for us was having a facilitator, apart from the leadership team, someone that everyone can easily trust, someone who can lead the space very, very effectively, someone who can create positive impact on the space and on the teachers. So, deciding on a facilitator who everyone easily trusts. I think the third key step for me, what it says is like, what prompted Priyanka to start sharing was because I chose to be vulnerable. I think if you are a leader and if you want to create change in your stuff, you need to walk in with complete trust and complete vulnerability. If I had not chosen to be honest about my emotions, about the struggles that I was facing, I don't think we would be actually showcasing fearless voices here today. So I think a leader needs to walk in with emotions up her sleeve and just being absolutely vulnerable. I think the fourth and the fifth key step are just about creating norms around the sacred space. Like we already said before, it's a conscious choice, right? So it's not a sign up sheet for like 10 sessions. Every session that you take has a sign up sheet where it is a conscious choice for me to sign up and to walk in with my emotions out there in the open. It's a choice. So it's a voluntary space, but I'm going to make a conscious choice every time I walk in. And the last one, I think, before it becomes very organic, to start off, I think the first few circles need to have some norms around this, like Sucheta explained a little while ago. There's no judgment. There's 100% acceptance. There is free will to speak about whatever you want to speak. If that's venting out, if that's something that happened at home, whatever it is, there are norms that sort of should be in place before the space becomes very sacred to everyone, becomes almost organic after a point of time. So these are 5 steps that we honestly worked really well for all of us at RSM, and I hope that others in the audience also can benefit through this.
Thanks, Suchita. Thank you so much. I especially found the second and the fourth one very interesting. The second one being, doesn't have to be the leader facilitating the space. It could be any staff member, and that actually promotes more equal voice. And the fourth one being that it's a choice. It doesn't have to be like, okay, everyone has to share or everyone has to come. I think the fact that it's voluntary makes it more safe in some way, because you're choosing to be there very naturally, very organically, and choosing to share or choosing to listen depending on what you're comfortable with. So I think those two definitely stood out to me as things to keep in mind. And of course, typing norming tightly. Sucheta already walked us through some of the norms, and I was connecting the dots that she did mention that there are specific norms around no solution giving and some of those things. So I think those would have definitely changed the dynamics of the space completely. So thank you for sharing, Sucheta. At this point, we're at the last 20 minutes together. And audience would love to hear some questions from you around what you just heard. People are asking me for a certificate of participation. I'll let you know if that is there or not, but right now I want you to participate, right? So for that, you need to ask questions. So I would love for everyone to really, anything. It could be, even if you don't have a question, a thought that you want to share with our panelists here, or something that stuck with you, any of those would be welcome. So I'll give 30 seconds to the audience to punch in their questions in the chat box. Okay, lovely. We have a couple of questions already coming in. SJ, who is this? Okay, SJ is saying, was there a struggle to get to no judgment? It's a very tough thing to do, given we are so conditioned to constantly judge. Sucheta, would you like to take that? You're the counselor.
Sure. SJ, thank you so much for your question. And you're absolutely right. As human beings, we are so used to judging each and every single thing that we see on a daily basis, right? When we set this norm for this space, saying that, we are going to be completely free of judgment, we explain to the staff members what the rationale behind it is. Why is it important to not have judgment, not judge somebody for whatever they shared? So just explaining the rationale to people, saying that, to create a safe space, we need to understand, we need to respond instead of reacting to whatever the person is saying. That really helps. When you're setting any sort of norms, just explaining the rationale behind why we're doing this really helps. And so far, I can say with 100% surety, and I'm sure Ruhi, Sucheta, Pooja, and Priyanka will also agree with what I'm saying, that there was complete acceptance from our staff members, 100%. So yeah,
Tanvi,
it was
if
not
I can
really
just add, sorry, Tanvi, if I can just add another layer to that. I think when we thought of the space, it came from the need of the teachers, right? So the teachers did not have a space to share what they wanted to share. The space came very organically that I didn't want to be judged. I felt I would be judged, but I don't want to be judged in the space. And the space came out from the need of the teachers, and we just basically use that to create the space that you want to come in to be yourself, to be really authentic. And everyone who walks into that space, that's why we have the norms of conscious sign-ups, where you know that you're not going to judge the person who's sharing, then I'm not going to judge myself. So I think it's everyone creating that space on their own. That's where it came from. It's not easy, I agree. But when the need is there, I think it's easy to follow. Yeah, I think that's where it came from.
Awesome. So you're saying when you're consciously signing up and walking in, you're also signing up for the norms that the space stands for.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a very conscious part of the start as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We have a few more questions, and I want to make sure we can catch as many, so I'm going to move ahead. Yashaswini is asking if being vulnerable can sometimes backfire in terms of setting professional expectations with the team. So can you always separate the personal and the professional easily? Sucheta, as a leader of the team, has that been an issue? Or Pooja?
I think Pooja is ready. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something that we knew from the very beginning. We knew since last year that care is something that we really, really do want to intentionally build into the school. And I think the two most important documents that we created in the beginning of the year, one is the school culture document, and the other one is all of the managers that I teach, and specifically here, Sucheta and me have our own management memos where we've specified actionables for how we are going to show or how we aim to show care to each other, but at the same time, how do we also keep results and learning, which are sort of the three pillars at school for us. So there's results, there's care, and there's learning. So it is an expectation. It is something that all of us have decided on since last year, and specifically since the beginning of this year, that we will definitely focus on care. At the same time, we will be very, very objective, and we will also definitely focus on results and learning as well. So I think that's an expectation that's been set, and we come back to the same documents every single unit to reflect on, to make some changes if we want to. But I think that's something that sort of keeps the balance for us.
So till now, you haven't seen the challenge of results and care conflicting, because unfortunately we do sometimes view them as one or the other and not and. So till now, you've been able to see both of them balance out beautifully in the team, is it?
Yeah, I think we've been able to see both. I'm sure we have, now that I think about it, of course, there have been a couple of instances in the past where it has sort of clashed. But right after that, I remember this one meeting where we had, where all of us came together and we decided that, okay, to avoid this in the future, can we then make sure that any sort of breakdown, if even if it's a very, very small breakdown that happens in culture, can we go back to that person within 48 hours and can we talk to them face to face and can we figure that out very, very objectively? So I think this 48-hour feedback loop is really, really helpful because nothing sort of lingers in our heads anymore.
Awesome. Got it. I'm just gonna, I was just looking at a bunch of questions that were coming in. One of them, Pooja, is related to students. Have you tried a similar space with your students as well? And if yes, how has that played out?
Would somebody else like to answer that question, or I can go ahead?
Yeah, I can take it, Pooja. Yeah, I think we have tried to create a similar space for our students. During the unit, we try to create an open space for students at least once, where students freely give feedback, share what were the breakdowns with the teachers, and I think even share few thoughts around how we can, bridge that gap, how we can, just the breakdowns, how we can work towards that. So we are trying to create that space for the students, and definitely we have seen positive impact there as well.
Awesome. So actually, this question is bringing a follow-up question in my mind, Rui. So one thing is separately conducting a similar space for students, which is what you just said, that you have actually done that as well, which I didn't know. So that's pretty cool that you've had exactly the same space created even for your students. Once a unit, you said that's about once in 8 weeks. I was actually wondering, Fearless Voices itself, the initiative for teachers, have you seen after that initiative came out, you started with Suchita, I think you shared empowered teachers lead to empowered students, right? So have you seen that trickle down effect? Like since teachers started feeling more comfortable in the team, you could see that in the classrooms as well?
Yeah, I think we were able to see that in the classrooms as well. I think Fearless Voices, in a way, helped a lot of us to share openly, talk openly. So I think even in a classroom where teachers are open to the students, I think that impacts the students as well. And that change we were able to actually see where students openly shared with us. So definitely, we were in some way able to empower students as well.
Awesome. Maybe can one of you give us an example of what that looked like? How were students empowered through this?
Tanvi, if I may, definitely, I mean, as you were saying it, I thought of an example, but it is Rui's example. So Rui, I hope this is okay. So I think Rui and I recently were having a very broad conversation about how she has changed as a person since last year to this year. Um, if I want to give you a very, very concrete example, it's Rui last year when she had a few weeks where she was, stressed, or whether a personal issues going on or professional issues going on. A very, very direct correlation I could see was in her classes when, we give positive narration or we appreciate the students. That basically went down a lot. But the minute her well-being her well-being, even now when it goes up, the kind of energy, the kind of enthusiasm, the kind of positive narration she brings to class is 10x of, when she's not feeling really, really well. Um, And I think that's a very, very simple, concrete example to share here.
Thanks, Pooja. Yeah, I think uh, it's so nice when you shared the journey over a year, right? Like it doesn't happen overnight, but over a year you were able to see specific shifts, like you said, 10x energy in the classroom and a lot more positive messaging with students. I think that really gives hope to me, and I'm sure other educators as well, that it takes time, but it can happen. So thank you so much for that. I'll just take a couple of more questions that have come in. We have one question specific to Fearless Voices. When you started the space, was it that there were a few members who were naturally more comfortable sharing and a few who didn't, and so there was an imbalance? If yes, how did you break through that imbalance?
SK, why don't you take that? You lead the space.
Yeah. So definitely there were more. So definitely there were more members like Priyanka and Rui are members who would consciously come there every single time we had a session and share. But one thing I can say with clarity is that when other people who were not so comfortable sharing at first, who had just signed up as listeners, once they started hearing how vulnerable and how open other staff members were, throughout the session, people who had signed up just to be listeners would be like, hey, hold up, wait a minute, I want to share as well. Can I share? Is that okay? So I think just seeing that shift was an absolutely magical experience. There are a lot of people, not just in RSM, in Fearless Voices, there were people who would not actively voice out their opinions during a meeting or during a school huddle. Even they have actively started opening up more in such spaces and also during meetings. So that shift we have clearly seen in our school.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Priyanka, I think you also shared in the beginning that you started off as a listener, but when you heard others on the team, that gave you the confidence to also share at times. So I could make the connect there. Thank you, Sucheta. We have one more question. Honestly, I had this question as well. Somebody has asked, how does hearing help? Like just hearing and listening, because we are, as human beings, tuned to find solutions to problems, to solve things, to fix things. So why did you take the conscious choice? So Cheta, I think you can answer that. When you set up the space, why did you make the conscious choice of keeping solutions away?
So Tanvi, the main idea behind that was in our normal everyday lives, we're so used to us like telling, if we're sharing a problem with somebody, we're so used to people telling us solutions, people telling us advice, people telling us what to do. So most of the time, we know what has to be done. We know what the solution to the problem is, but we don't really have somebody in our lives who is just ready to just be there and just listen. And by listening, I mean empathetic listening. We need people who are okay with silences, where people okay with we need people that are completely okay with being silent when we're saying something, not giving any sort of solution, and just being there in the moment consciously. So I think that's why we normed on why we don't really need advice or solution in our lives. We just need some empathetic listening, and we just need complete 100% positive regard, unconditional positive regard, if I must say. So yeah.
So what you're saying in it has to oversimplify. Sorry, Suchita, you had a point?
Yeah, so Tanvi, I also wanted to say like what Sucheta shared is like we have people in our lives to give us advice and solutions, and we generally always share problems. But Fearless Voices also has a a, a very nuanced part of it is that I'm able to come here and share my feelings, and then I wonder how am I supposed to give feedback on somebody's feelings. So I don't give feedback on feelings. I don't give advice on feelings. I don't give solutions on feelings. So it's just a space where you can actually come and share, this is how I'm feeling because this is happening. And then when that feeling comes across, all I can do is just listen patiently and not offer any solutions. Yeah. And that is sort of a key there.
I think all of us can definitely relate to that. There are enough and more people there to give us advice and solutions, but it's really the empathetic listening that all of us want to receive and also practice giving others. So thank you for that, Sujita. The line that you shared, that how can you give feedback on feelings, that line really stuck with me. That it just,
Yeah.
it is what it is, and you can't really give feedback on feelings, and that's the spirit with which the space operates. That's a really beautiful approach. We have one question around. You started this initiative, I believe, in July, right, Sucheta? So in the last few months, what percentage of staff have participated in these spaces? And has that increased over time? What are you planning to do to push it to, say, everybody participating?
So definitely, we started off with each and every one of our team members joining our space, and I think the more members, the more sessions that went on, the number of people that joined has definitely increased as well, because more and more people became comfortable with sharing whatever they had to share. So I think just being a part of the space in the first couple of times just pushed people on their own to feel safe and comfortable to share. So we didn't have to actively push people to join a space. It just came out from within, because that space made them feel comfortable and wanted and validated. So yeah.
Awesome. Got it. So the one thought that I had, Sucheta, at this point, it's a little tangential, but I was wondering if you did anything apart from Fearless Voices to enable the fact that 100% of your staff, I think you said, participated in the first space itself, right? So that's not easy for everyone to come in. It's a conscious choice. It's a sign-up based thing. It's voluntary. I'm sure there are some things that you did which turned out to be enabling factors to make this happen. So anything apart from this initiative that you did for well-being? Anyone could answer that.
So, Tanvi, I would like to answer this question. So, I remember this whole thing started with an email chain where I have written one email where I shared my emotions, and other like my team members replied to that email with their emotions. So, basically, this started with the email chain, and then Sucheta like created this space, Fearless Voices, for us.
Got it. But what I mean is, were there other things you did intentionally as a team for teacher well-being apart from this space, which ended up making you feel so comfortable to join such team spaces in the first place?
I think, yeah. Go ahead, Pooja.
Go for it.
Go ahead. No, I think we both are saying the same thing. So why don't you go ahead? I'll just add. Go on.
Sure. So I think one key practice that we have at IT schools in general, and we've had at RSM also, is that every 2 or 2.5 months, all of us meet once for this like long 2-hour team meeting, where it's basically a culture norming. A culture norming is we align on each other on the kind of culture that we have created so far. Maybe some moments that basically helped us imagine what a culture is going to be like in the future. So somebody could share really, really positive instances of culture that they've seen in the last 2 months. And it's, of course, also a space to bring out instances where you thought the culture was not really in place and it was like about to break, or there was some, gaps between the kind of culture that we want to create. So it's a very consistent space that we have, and it's sort of become a practice. And I think over time, by practicing it so often and everybody participates there as well, it's sort of become more natural to share what you're feeling, because you have shared, or you have had similar experiences in the past where you're talking about each other and you're giving very, very objective feedback to each other. So I think that space really helped. So Chitra, if you want to add.
So you're saying that as a team, you've defined what you would like team culture to look like. So there is intentionality around defining it. And then there's also consistency around reflecting on that team culture, at least you said once in 2 months, if I'm not wrong. Right? So you come
Absolutely.
together.
Yeah.
The intentional culture that you all have collectively defined, you get a space to actually reflect on it and dialogue around it. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So last year, towards the end of the year, we actually took about 2 weeks, and we just thought about the kind of culture that we wanted to create at school at RSM. And there were 3 pillars that all of us came up with, right? Something that I spoke about earlier. but I don't think I sort of emphasized it enough. But results, care, and learning are three pillars that all of us are very, very aligned on. And we sort of come back to those pillars every 2 months and give feedback to each other on something that we're doing well, something that we need to do better.
Awesome, awesome. That's a really, really good note to end this on, audience. Keep those three pillars in mind. It's beautiful to see care right up there with results, right? So, results is something, of course, intuitively we're all here to achieve something, but it's so, so good to see care right up there with results and, of course, learning as well. So, I'm definitely going to keep those three pillars in mind: results, care, and learning. That brings me to the end of our panel discussion. Thank you so much, Suchita, Priyanka, Rui, Sucheta, Pooja, for your time today. I think, like I said in the beginning, you're such a young school. To be selected at a global platform like this is phenomenal. It is non-trivial. And thank you for having the courage to come and share with us and inspiring us in so many ways. I personally am taking away quite a few things. I'll just synthesize my takeaways, and then we'll close out with a final video. I think three things that I'm thinking about is one, what we started with right at the beginning. I just want to reiterate that empowered teachers lead to empowered students, right? And you gave some really powerful examples of how you saw that play out in the context of your school, right? So definitely leading with that one stuck with me. The second one that I'm thinking of is in quite a few answers that you gave, you mentioned that the leader doesn't have to always take initiative. The leader doesn't have to be the one driving this. That was pretty interesting for me. I think by default, we just tend to think of leaders starting things in schools, but it was really good to hear that, Sucheta, you started it as one of the team members, and that actually promoted more equal voice and made the space more approachable. So I think that's something I'm also thinking about, that how can team members take up spaces like this so that they're more approachable, perhaps. And the third thing that I'm thinking about is that it's not just about creating a space where people can just share and listen, but also creating a safe space, right? And that means setting some norms. That means bringing in some nuanced intentionality into what are the practices you want to play out in space. For example, no solutions, empathetic listening, unconditional positive regard. These are some things that really stuck with me as very nuanced norms that you're reiterating again and again to make the space truly safe and not just any space where you're just sharing or listening. So yeah, I think these three things I am definitely taking away today. Thank you so much. We have some comments in the audience of how they've been inspired by the space. Audience members, please feel free to leave your comments on what you took away from the last 60 minutes together. I'm sure all of us would love to hear what this space did for you, what are some thoughts it sparked off, and what are you really leaving with. So please spend a couple of minutes typing that down before you go. One last thing from our side, Loves, our technical producer for today, is going to punch in an email ID for all of you. So in case any of you want to reach out to the panelists later, you have some thoughts you want to share or some questions that were unanswered, or you just want a thought partner on a similar idea for in your context, please do write to them. So we have the email ID there for all of you, info@itschools.org. Would love to hear from many, many of you on how this 1 hour was for you. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great evening or whatever time it is, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.